What's going on, folks? Wes Pruitt, 4 Star Sports Media. You are at the Sports Buffet. It's a special Sunday night edition. We're going to talk all football. We'll talk a little college football. We'll get into a few topics as well as some recap of some games from week two. A look ahead to week three and what is going to be a very, very interesting week of college athletics. Then we'll get over into the NFL. We'll take a look at tonight's games as well as the barn burner we got going on right now in Sunday night football. And then we will also look ahead and also take a look at some divisions and see who some teams are to keep an eye out in those divisions. All that and more tonight on the Sports Buffet, presented to you by 4 Star Sports Media. Let's get into it, folks. All right, as you can see, I am not alone. Got John Sturdivant over there sitting to the right of me. We'll have Blake Hogue joining us here shortly as well. Man, so let's just get into it, John. Very, very exciting weekend of college football. Um, let's just start at the top. So when you look around college football, let's just talk some players, John, as we get started. Some guys that stood out to you. It's got to be, to me, it's got to be Ashton Genty from Boise State, the running back. I fully believe that young man is the best running back in the nation right now, and statistically, that would back that statement up. But to see what he did, to see not only how he ran, but he was running away from Oregon, and when I say running away, I mean literally running away from Oregon last night in an absolute classic on Peacock. So let me get your thoughts on that as we start, John. What was your thoughts on Peacock covering a little college football?
I mean, at first, I was kind of upset about it. Like I messaged you and Blake in the group chat yesterday. I'm like, why are they showing this game on Peacock? It should be on the Big Ten Network instead of the Utah State and Southern Cal game instead. But I guess with being on Peacock, it wasn't too bad in general, but I just wish the game was on the Big Ten Network instead of the Peacock channel. But like you brought up, great game, 37-34, and makes you wonder, looking back at that camera angle that the referees that were looking at that kickoff return for Oregon, because he dropped the ball supposedly at the 1 yard line. As soon as he was walking into the end zone, what cameras maybe the referees were actually looking at for that. But to me, Boise State being a 19.5-point underdog going into that game at Oregon, they showed a lot of heart. They showed a lot of how we can reckon not only for the Mountain West this year, but also maybe take that P5 spot over a team like Memphis or Liberty down the road as well. And to me right now, I'm going to take Boise over Memphis just because the way they competed against Oregon as well. And you brought up the running back. What is stud 2 weeks in a row showing that he could be like a Heisman finalist for the Boise State Broncos. It reminds me of the Ian Johnson days back in the day, but I like this running back a little bit better.
Yeah, Genty's got, I mean, he'll run you over. He is not shy about contact at all, which I really enjoy watching, especially out of a running back. But it's just when they need a big play, he just seems to have that factor about him. He reminds me a lot of kind of like Darrell Henderson back in the day, or Darrell Henderson, however you want to pronounce his first name, from Memphis back in the day. It's seemingly whenever Memphis would need a big play or a big run or a big moment, there he was. And that's really what Genty did last night for sure. That was an absolute ball game. I loved every second of it. I think that I don't even know if ESPN Classic's still around, but that's an ESPN Classic right there, folks. But you know what I mean? Like, ESPN Classic, college football game, I guess they'd probably still have the ESPN Classic thing. But no, heck of a football game last night, man. Let's go ahead and jump into it, man. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Colorado and Nebraska matchup. And as you can see by the title up there, is Colorado still primed? Final score at the bottom of the screen there, Nebraska 28, Colorado 10. When you look at this game, John, it's kind of the tale of 2 weeks in a row. I mean, we talked about it last week. Lack of running game, or really no running game, um, and terrible offensive line equals what, 5 or 6 sacks on Shador Sanders. Of course, he was out with some type of protocol, so he had to leave the field for safe, to make sure he was okay. I mean, it is what it is there. I know the optics of that did not look very good. I've seen some videos of him. I mean, you literally walk through fans, by the way, as you're leaving the Nebraska stadium. There was fans literally walking right next to him. But when you look at Nebraska, man, Matt Rule, we talked about him at the beginning of the year. We talked about him in the offseason. Team to look out for, especially not just in the Big Ten, but I mean nationally. You look at Matt Rule and the job he's done. He just does it every year, seemingly the same way. And this is a different Nebraska team. They're playing with a little more physicality than we've seen. The quarterback is absolutely amazing. I call him Pat Mahomes Jr. But man, defensively, I mean, beautiful pick six. Honestly, on the pass, if you're if you're Shador Sanders, you don't throw that football. I mean, that's across the field. I mean, cornerback was just sitting there waiting on it. But man, what was your thoughts on this game, John? I mean, like I said, I worked, so when I got home, I ended up
Yeah.
rewatching a lot of football last night and some even more tonight. Um, but what was your thoughts on this game? There was a lot of, I guess you would call it hype. I wouldn't say there's a lot of hype, but around this game, there just always seems to be a lot of. I don't want to call it hype now. Last year it was hype around this Colorado team. Now it's
Mhm.
just people talking about it. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, let's be honest. This football team hasn't been relevant for the last 20 seasons. Based on their 4 wins last year, I guess they became a little more relevant, but they're not relevant right now. And yes, everybody's like, "Oh, well, you're still talking about them." You're right, because they got their butt kicked last night. That was domination by Nebraska. Would you agree?
Yeah, like you brought up, total domination by Nebraska's defense. 28 to, or hang on, let me rephrase that. Yeah, 28 to nothing at halftime against Colorado, but nothing to take away from Nebraska's fans and whatnot. But before the game, of course, you probably heard the "FU Colorado" chants, and all that. But Colorado players did not live up to the challenge where they were dancing and goofing off in the pregame. And dude, Colorado's defensive line has only had one sack in the first two ball games, and you bring in Warren Sapp as your defensive line coach in the offseason, a Hall of Famer, I might add, and you really think Colorado's going to have more than one sack in the first two ball games because Colorado had 0 sacks yesterday. Meanwhile, Nebraska had 6. At one time, Colorado had minus 17 rushing yards in the first half. And total domination by the Cornhuskers. Matt Rule definitely outcoached Prime. Um, from top to bottom, I think this is probably, I don't know what to think about Colorado right now. A lot of people are thinking 4 to 5 wins still for Colorado, but I can probably still see the 4 to 5 wins. And it doesn't make it any easier. This is a Nebraska team, kind of reminds me of the early 2000s when they had Eric Couch at quarterback when it smashed mouth football. And it did that yesterday. And it doesn't make it easier now for Colorado because now you got a rivalry game in Colorado State and Fort Collins, where Colorado State had that game win last year. And of course,
Yep.
Sanders and Hunter reconnected, whatnot. But it
Mm.
doesn't make it any easier going in this game now against your rival school in Colorado State.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at last night, Down Hayden, young man, we've named Memphians should recognize that name. Down Hayden had 5 rushes for 33 yards, 32 net, long of 17 for 6.4. He was the leading rusher last night for Colorado. I'll say that again, 32 yards. He was the leading rusher for Colorado last night. They only had they had 22 attempts last night for 61 yards,
Mm-hmm.
a net of 16 because they lost 45 yards. That's an average of point 0.7 per rush. I said it last week. I'll say it again this week. This team's not going to win football games being one dimensional. Period. You're not going to do it. You're not going to be able. We got Blake Hogue coming in here from Hogs Happy Hour. What's going on, Blake?
Oh, not much. Just a great weekend of football for some people.
For yes, we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, I mean when you look at this Colorado team and then Shador Sanders in post game or today or whenever it was, he asked the question, how many times did the Nebraska quarterback get sacked? Uh, None. He stayed clean all night, buddy. Um, but the question is not how many times did he get sacked, but everybody says he threw his offensive line under the bus. Sounds almost to me like Shador Sanders to the coaching staff under the bus. I mean, let's be honest. That is the best offensive line that the NIL money through Colorado can buy because that's how it was rebuilt. It's how their entire roster's been rebuilt. So, as much as people complain about the NIL, this is a no pun intended, but it's a prime example of how the NIL can also be harmful for your program because you can't just go and rebuild. They mentioned it that Deion Sanders wants to be a general manager type of guy. You can't do you can't do this. You can't literally rip and create. This ain't fantasy football. This ain't Madden. You don't get to just go and pick who you want and then put them around your boys. You know what I mean? Um, it just doesn't work like that. Uh, John, let me ask you this
Yeah.
before we move on to the next little topic here. Do you think Deion Sanders is still the head coach of Colorado next season?
Too early to ask me that. Too early, but my gut tells me yes, and my heart tells me no. Because
I don't I don't know if it's too early to ask that.
I just, yes, your second year in, like you're getting all like you brought up, man. Like the Colorado fan base, for one thing, is pretty crazy. For one thing, and they're not to the Colorado team that me and you grew up watching, winning 8 to 9 ball games a year. Now you're in the Big 12, in general too. And to me, this year the Big 12 is one of those that anybody can beat anybody on a given day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it showed yesterday when Cam Reiser got hurt for Utah, how much that offense for Utah kind of went down a little bit.
100%.
So to me personally, the Big 12 is up for grabs now because anybody can beat anybody on a given day. Heck, I'm still not counting out the Kansas Jayhawks after them losing to Illinois yesterday. Um, UCF is still looking. I know they played Sam Houston yesterday, but KJ Jefferson got a little bit better after that game one yesterday for UCF.
Yep.
But so basically, what I'm trying to say is, how much time do you actually give Dion to get these players? To me, like you said, he's doing everything in the NIL and college transfers and all whatnot. But he needs to start recruiting high school kids for one thing, and then see how he does with that talent if he stays at Colorado. That's one reason my gut tells me that he will stay another year at Colorado. But my heart also tells me I know how these Colorado fan bases are, and their big donors are, and they might want to change after the second year because they've had enough of the talk, the dances, the social media, you name it,
Yep.
regarding the players in general. And like you brought up, I also want to say this. I feel bad for Dallin Hayden right now, like you brought up. 5 carries yesterday. You're passing the ball to me personally 38 times on average a game right now, and you still got one of the better running backs in Hayden. I know
Yep.
people are saying, well, he led Ohio State for a reason. Well, people don't know the whole story regarding Ohio State for one thing.
Yeah.
And then to me personally, I don't think you're using Hayden enough. 5 carries to me is a joke. To me, he should be getting at least 15 to 20 carries a game.
Yeah, I mean, and, when you look at Colorado, after a big win over North Dakota State, I'll say that again. After a big come from behind win to North Dakota State, there was a lot of hype, right? There was a lot of
Mm-hmm.
excitement around that team. Well, and not just for Colorado, but there was a rude awakening for a lot of programs around the country yesterday. Very rude awakening for a lot of programs around the country. Um, the overreaction, I think, so far of the season, to me anyway, is the fans. I mean, you go from screaming "We're unstoppable, we can't be beat" to "I want the coach out of there," and we're going to talk about that in a little bit when we get the hot seat. But I mean, John, when you look at this, man, let's go through it. Let's talk about some teams that had a rude awakening yesterday. Let's start with California as they knocked off Auburn yesterday, 21-14 at home. By the way, at home. Let's get Blake back in here.
Yeah, my my computer crashed, so I had to switch to this Chromebook. So
I told you quit looking up that stuff, Doc. Here,
Oh, you're good, man. um, so Blake, we're looking at some teams that had a rude awakening yesterday. We are going to mention Arkansas, just FYI on this.
That's fine. That's fine.
But look,
I'm cool with it.
we're we're going to start with California and Auburn. 21-14, big time win yesterday. When you look at Hugh Freeze in post game, he took the blame. Kudos to Hugh for doing that. Not a lot of teams and players around the country are doing that right now, as we just talked about with Colorado. But when you look at Auburn, that's a big loss. And then you look at Auburn's schedule, it doesn't get any easier for the Tigers down there. Let's start there just real quick. Blake, what's your thoughts on California going into the Plains and knocking off the Fighting Hugh Freezes?
Well, I think it was you, Jonathan, that told me that it was surprising, but it didn't shock you. And I think that's kind of the feeling I have is, looking at it, Auburn's really not that great. Thorne to me he's not a great quarterback at all. So I think Cal going in there and beating them, I mean, it's maybe surprising to some, but to people that understand football, I don't think it's too surprising. But in 2 weeks from now, it's a pivotal game with Auburn and Arkansas.
Very true, very true. John, what's your thoughts on it, man? I mean, all right, let's just start with Peyton Thorne. What's your thoughts on Thorne?
He played like garbage yesterday.
Yeah.
Four interceptions. Awful. 14-27, 165, 1 touchdown, 4 picks. So, like we talked about, credit to California defense, credit the whole team for California because they definitely outplayed them. To be honest with you, I really thought this could have been, like we talked about last week, I thought the cross-country trip, could be a factor for California. Maybe that's why they lose this game, but they proved me wrong because they're 10.5-point underdogs. And I really thought Auburn would have won this game. But to be honest with you, I'm just shocked by, I guess, the quarterback playing in general in that game because I really thought Auburn would have probably opened up the playbook a little bit more and threw the ball downfield and capitalize on California's kind of short rest, in other words. But, heck, credit California for going 10 of 19 on third down conversions and throwing over 200 yards passing. And Auburn's defensive line only had 2 sacks. That's not good.
Yeah. And I will say, with an SEC team playing against what we think as a lower level team, you should be able to run the ball, and they only had 121 yards rushing. So
right.
$100%. I mean, like I said, doesn't get easier for Auburn. And another game as we stick in the SEC. The first 3 games are going to be in the SEC. On a night that was historic in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. If last night was any proof that Nick Saban has stepped away from the program, being up 14-13 with 6 minutes to go in that game on South Florida was further proof. Because I mean, think about it, guys. There was penalties, sloppy play, and let's give credit to Alex Golesh and to the South Florida
Mhm.
Bulls. Uh, I think people are now learning it's not the smartest to go schedule teams like South Florida, Memphis. This American Conference is a lot deeper than people give it credit for. Blake, would you agree?
Oh yeah, for sure. And you know, even last year, South Florida gave Bama a game at South Florida. You know, so it was, you know, South Florida kind of has Bama's number. I mean, they haven't beat them, but they have played well against them. But I agree with the, you know, I think Bama is maybe number 5 in the SEC. You know, maybe number 6
Yeah.
overall. So it's, you know, but you are replacing a legend. You know, heck, the field is named after the guy that you replaced. So
Oh yeah. I mean that's what I'm saying. I mean if you're man, I mean think about that. I know it didn't happen, but man, if South Florida would have won that game, whoo, that would have been a sour taste in some mouths down there. John, we've been
Yeah.
talking about South Florida, man. All right, so obviously when you look at the final score, 42-16, anyone that didn't watch or pay attention to that game would automatically think, "Oh man, they blew them out." South Florida probably scored a late touchdown. No, Alabama scored 4. That's how they got it to that point.
mm-hmm.
John, what's your thoughts on South Florida as a team for the rest of the year?
First of all, like you brought up, Blake, uh, you named the field after Saban for one thing, so congratulations to Alabama on doing that accomplishment. But yeah, South Florida actually had a clean football game until 6 minutes to go in that game. 0 interceptions and 0 fumbles lost as well. So, like Coach Alex said, going playing for pretty much all ball game until the last 6 minutes of the ball game, we played like garbage. To me personally, I think South Florida, like we talked, to me personally, the Memphis South Florida game for Memphis is definitely still a trap game for the Memphis Tigers because of the outcome last year, that way it was so high scoring. But just the way that South Florida competed against the top 5 team in Alabama in a hostile environment yesterday and played their hearts out. The whole American was going for them, and it sounded like the whole country was really going for them yesterday as well to see that upset. But going forward, I picked South Florida to go 8-4, I think, this year. And if they can just surprise some people in the conference this year, I won't be surprised if they go 9-3 or 10-2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt.
And I will say real quick on South Florida, if you can put 206 rushing yards against an SEC team, you know, and especially against Alabama,
Yep.
you know, watch out.
100%. 100%,
Hey,
Blake.
another thing about South Florida, though, Wes, you know, that 21st matchup against Miami
Mhm.
in Tampa, College Game Day could very well go to that game because I think this is the year that South Florida can beat Miami and Cam Ward as well because they've already seen a dual threat quarterback with Milroe at Alabama.
Yeah. Good point. All right, man. Up next, we're going to take a trip over to Stillwater, Oklahoma. I know Blake's going to get into this on Thursday night during the Hogs Happy
Yeah.
Hour, so I don't want to
Oh, yeah.
dive too much into
No,
this.
no, I mean we can dive into it.
He's like,
It's a
please
lot.
let me get into it. So Rude Awakening, it's I titled it that for because these are all games that were Rude Awakenings for fans. I mean, Arkansas fans coming out of the UAPB game. Now, anyone listening that's the UAPB person, I don't mean this in a negative way, but historically speaking, University of Arkansas Pine Bluff is predominantly one of the worst programs in the nation.
Yeah.
Let's just call
But
a spade here.
They
But
did.
still.
They did win. They did win yesterday.
They did. It was a
Yeah,
great
they did.
game, by the way.
They did.
But I mean, and to Arkansas's credit in that game, hey, 10 for 10, that's perfect. I
Yeah.
mean, that's not easy to do, right? There was a lot of hype, though. You know, I saw some folks out there that, you know, whew, 700 yards. Not quite 700, but,
Yeah.
you know,
Mm-mm.
and you almost do it again. 648 in Stillwater. But now I hear fans that want Pippen gone. But Blake, let me ask you this: if you let Sam Pittman go, the
Yeah.
same assistants are still in place. The
Mm-hmm.
same assistants are still coaching the same
Yeah.
units that you're
Yeah.
complaining about.
Yeah.
Correct?
Correct. You're right. So
So
yeah,
how does getting rid of
I don't
Pittman
know.
and putting BMFB, who doesn't even want to be a head coach, by the way,
I know.
in that
Yeah.
position in the dream world of Arkansas land? I think this is a rude awakening for fans because there's just so much overreaction. Just you took the number 15 team to 2 overtimes,
Mm-hmm.
and you were a literal yard away from keeping the game going. Maybe I'm lost here, Blake, but I'm a little confused. Why the outrage?
Well, the outrage is we were up, 21, what was it, 7 at half, I think, 21-10. I don't, I watch, I watch a lot of
Yeah.
football lately,
You were
so
up
it's something like
21-7. Yeah.
that. Yeah, so I think that Arkansas fans saw the first half and saw how easy it was to dominate Oklahoma State, and then you come out of halftime and it's the opposite. It's just, I mean, we kind of got away from the running game, but we had to because Jackson was cramping up, and he was our workhorse, and
Yep.
Rashad DeBinion was hurt, and then Hill gave some good runs, but we put up 648 yards of offense, 416 passing yards. You would expect to win. You would also expect to score more than 31 points.
Yeah.
But it's just
That's
I
in
think
2 overtimes.
in 2 overtimes. Yeah. And I think one of our nightmares is coming true of Arkansas fans was we were going to miss Cam Little, and I think we're gonna have a kicking problem all year because kicking is all about confidence. So right now his confidence is very low when we need him. But we also had 232 rushing yards. I mean, offense put up numbers. Defense gave us stops when we needed them in the first half. Second half, our
Yeah.
DBs kind of relaxed, not as aggressive. But as weird as it is, Hudson Clark got hurt, and T. Will has said he's the heartbeat of that defense. So once he went out, it kind of went downhill.
Yeah. And speaking of the defense, John, when you look at the Arkansas defense coming into this game, I would have never expected the Arkansas defense to keep Oklahoma State to 89 yards rushing and to bottle up Ollie Oxenfree Gordon. I mean, think about it. The only time Ollie went Ollie was in OT. I mean, was that Ollie time or was that overtime, John?
It was basically, like you said, 12 yards of his 49 yards came on that final play in overtime for them to win the ball game for that touchdown. Like you said, credit Arkansas's defense by holding Oklahoma State to 59 yards rushing. But the stat that really stood out to me, like I didn't get to watch the full game at all yet because I was at the Memphis game yesterday in general. But you just couldn't get off the field when it mattered most, really, in my honest opinion, on the highlights that I saw throughout the game. Because on third down, you give up a dumb holding call or pass interference or jump off sides or whatever it is, and now your defense is back on the field again while you had them stopped, whatnot.
Yeah.
But the thing is also 0 sacks, guys, for Arkansas's defensive line. 0.
Yeah. That's a great point.
We're in Stillwater against, to me, yeah, Oklahoma State might have a better offensive line, but 0 sacks, come on. And that just irritates me still for where teams can have only 0 sacks into a game where you can put pressure on quarterbacks all day long, and you're doing a good job on their quarterback too. But that's just a total disappointing loss. And then, like you said, Blake, they're going to jump ship already after 1-1. Now you got UAB coming in town and they're going to be hungry
Man, hell yeah,
after
they are.
losing. After they're going to come in hungry and say,
Yeah.
"Okay, I know." Wait, watch Arkansas for one thing. Watch Arkansas come out flat because they looked at the score last week between Monroe and UAB. Just watch. You know how kids are these days. They
Yep.
like to look at scores across the country. They like to look at social media. And watch Arkansas come out flat, and then UAB's going to come out there and play hard for Trent Dilfer after what happened to them
No pun
against Monroe.
intended, but they're going to be on fire. They are Blazers.
Right.
But John, I mean, I think you have a great point there. I think that is
Yeah.
definitely something to watch out for if you're Arkansas and an Arkansas fan. If they do come out flat, that UAB team is not a bad football team. Now, yes, they did lose to Louisiana Monroe last week. I get that. But Trent Dilfer's not he's a talented football coach. It's
He's offensive minded for a reason. You know, he played in the NFL for a reason. So he knows how these coaches are year in, year out.
Yeah. Blake, when you look at Arkansas from a objective perspective, right? Is this, I mean, obviously it's not the end of the world. The season's not over. You've still got plenty of football left to be played. You've still got 2 more non-conference games. So in reality, you could be 3-1 coming out of non-conference. Then excuse me. Then all you need is 3 wins, and you're bowl. I don't want to talk about Larry, but you're bowl eligible.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get it, man. I don't understand let's just dive off the ship, man. We lost a game in double overtime and it's over with.
Yeah.
I understand there was penalties, there was mistakes. I get that. But and I understand it's a repetitive thing historically. But you outgained you whooped them. And then you missed a field goal. You lost.
Yeah.
I mean, it's football at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And also, like, the people that are mad, I can go back on their Twitter accounts and pull up their preseason predictions and show that they had Oklahoma State beating us. So what's the point? You know, why are you mad now compared to a month ago when you thought it was going to happen? You know.
Great point.
100%.
Great point.
100%. Yeah. A great point. Great.
And I mean,
all right, let's go ahead.
No, I'm saying this Arkansas team, we saw Mississippi State play. Okay, I think Arkansas is better. Okay, we'll find out in 2 weeks about Auburn. There's 2 wins right there. I mean, it's just one game.
You never. I mean, look, Jackson Dart may still be completing consecutive passes by the time he plays Arkansas. He's completed 30 in a row now. He hasn't missed a pass. Let's be real quick. I won't do like back in the day when I would just give partial scores because that's I just was shocking, and I guess I should have mentioned these guys in the Rude Awakening. But Northern Illinois goes into South Bend and pulls out a dub, 16-14 for the first ever win in program history over a P5 program for Northern Illinois. John, I'm sorry, over a top 5 program. John, when you look at, I mean, obviously, it's a big win, right? But with Notre Dame, that's a massive loss. Let's talk about it from the Notre Dame perspective real quick. How does Notre Dame get this right, coming off a massive loss at home to a team that you also had to pay $1.4 million to?
But let me first give credit to Northern Illinois by scheduling that game to get their guys ready for the tough conference they're in called the MAC. Hey, first of all, the MAC showed out yesterday, fellas. Bowling Green a 29.5 point underdog at Penn State, and you pretty much had Penn State through, let's say, 3.5 quarters until that fourth quarter. Don't want to lose that game by 7. Come on now, we gotta give a little bit of Mac Nation some love. But Northern
Yeah,
Illinois
I agree.
beating Notre Dame, and sorry Jeff Vincent that you were there. First of all, one of our listeners to the show that he's a big Notre Dame fan as well, and he actually went. Man, that's a long drive back to Memphis for one thing. But yeah, like I'm shocked the way that Notre Dame's offense did not look good at all. You had the quarterback play overthrow receivers and by like 5 to 7 yards, and it was just an embarrassing loss. Now this basically tells you
Yeah.
what other
Blake, when you look at
win.
Northern Illinois, man. Oh, go ahead.
Hang on,
Sorry,
Wes. I was going to say, what other win can Notre Dame make up now? Because think about it. To me, they can still lose that Florida State game, and they can still lose that Southern Cal game at the end of the year as well.
You took the words literally out of my mouth, John. That's what I was about to ask Blake. Is when you look at this
Sorry, Blake.
loss, when you look at the
No,
rest
you're
of their,
good.
you're good, man. When you look at the loss and you look at the rest of the
Uh-huh.
season, can you, I mean, I know it's an echo, Blake. You just heard all this, but
Yeah.
how do you recover from this?
Well, the good thing is their schedule's not that tough. All right, let's be honest. You know, it's not. I think the only tough game they got is the USC game. But with them losing to Northern Illinois, I guess every game might be a tough game. But I don't know. I think it was they were beating Texas A&M. You know, it was kind of a trap game for the Fighting Irish. It was. They beat Texas A&M at Texas A&M, which is hard to do. 100,000 people screaming at you. So they were just they get kind of overlooked NIU, and it showed because NIU outgained them. 388 to 286 in yards. The Fighting Irish, they were 3 for 10 on third down, which Wes, the first thing you look at is the third down efficiency.
You already know.
So
It tells so many stories. I mean, it really does. And then the second thing I look at is I look at third down, and then I go look at the trenches. I go look and see how many sacks you gave up, how many sacks you got on both sides of the ball, because that tells stories. I know exactly, because that tells stories. I mean, it's all right. So Notre Dame, incredible game, right? Congratulations to Northern Illinois. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they can take this game and keep the momentum going for them. Let's talk about another team that got a historic win. That was Kenny Dillingham and the Arizona State Sun Devils. Another late night game. I know Mississippi State fans that said, "I'm going to bed. Text me in the morning. I'll find out." Um, I stayed up and watched it, man. Great game. I loved the gold yellow jerseys that Arizona State had. They had the old school Sun Devil logo on the helmet as well. And then they turned around and beat an SEC team for the first time ever. When you look at coaches around the country, Matt Rule was in that class. Kenny Dillingham was in that class. We talked about Prime. He was in that class. Kenny Dillingham and the Arizona State Sun Devils were a team that not a lot of people really talk about, but they're a team that you got to pay attention to, because that little running back they got, that little boy, he can play, folks. He can play. The quarterback's really good, and I love Dillingham, man. I just love watching him on the sidelines. Defensively, they're aggressive. They get after you. But what a win to have Mississippi State fly across the country. They're used to being at the local bar in Starkville by the time that game kicked off. So, I mean, and you can't do what you do at the local bar out in Arizona State while you're playing football. So that's a weird night. But Blake, I'll start with you.
Mhm.
Let's start with Mississippi State, okay? Big time win. I understand this Jeff Levy first year. I'll be honest with you, I'm a huge fan of Jeff Levy. I think if he'll stick around, he can potentially, let me make sure I put that word in there. I think he can get them back to the level of where Dan Mullen had them at one time.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. I just look at as you know, the stats can kind of tell you the game. Mississippi State had 30 yards rushing, 30
Yeah.
against a non-SEC team, which we know Mississippi State is going through a true rebuild. Okay, I mean, give it year 2, year 3, Levy's going to be competing for sure. But on the flip side, Arizona,
Mhm.
Mississippi State only gave up 69 yards passing, but they gave up 359 yards rushing too. So uh, Mississippi State just couldn't.
Yeah.
They just couldn't stop the rush. I mean, but yeah, I want to say I could be wrong on this, but I want to say Coach Sanders, he wanted Dillingham as his offensive coordinator when he first got to Colorado.
He did.
There's
You are
there's
correct.
some type of because of Arizona State was in they had a bowl ban or something, some type of
Mhm.
Yeah, because Herm Edwards,
Because
right?
of Herm
Yeah.
Edwards.
yeah
Yep.
yeah
Herm Edwards and
so
Antonio Pierce did all that cheating during the COVID time.
yep so he is Coach Dillingham is a well-known name, and trust me, you may not know him. People, casual fan may not know him, but
Oh, I
he's
know him.
known. Okay. Oh yeah.
Former Tiger. I know exactly who Kenny
Oh
Dillingham is.
yeah.
For sure. John, let's talk about Arizona State real quick, man. Obviously, we know who Kenny Dillingham is. We understand the talent
I
there
do.
in the
Okay.
coaching, right? So, what? I mean, they're now what 2-0. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
2-0.
Yeah.
now. I think during that game they said it had been 100 straight days of 100-degree heat, which is absolutely wild to me. Um, how hot is this team right now, John? I think this team is, no pun intended, but they're on fire.
Yeah, you brought up a good point regarding me personally. It might be a dry heat because there's no humidity in Phoenix
Yeah.
slash Tempe. But to me, 100 degrees, 100 degrees. It's just the way that cold front came through the last couple of days down in Mississippi and Tennessee and Arkansas. Your body is just a 25-degree temperature change in general because you go into the 100-degree temperature drop in temperatures. And I appreciate State doing a good thing also because let me say this: you left earlier than you usually leave on a road trip.
Mhm.
So credit Coach Levy and the Mississippi State Bulldogs by planning that accordingly as well because one, you got a different time change as well. So I want to give them a lot of credit to Mississippi State coaching staff too. But to answer your question about Arizona State, hey, how about that offensive line for only allowing one sack the whole ball game? One
Yeah.
sack that whole ball game. But yeah, I think Dillingham, like we talked about numerous times as coaches, guys. If you give a coach like 2 to 3 years, you better look out for them because they could very well win 7 games. And to me, this game Thursday night against Texas State, it's gonna be a barn burner. It's gonna be a shootout. I really think this game Thursday night is gonna be a shootout at Texas State. Both teams are coming off a 4-day rest, of course. Hey, Texas State hosting UTSA and Arizona State back to back. Whoever did that schedule, like, wow, congratulations on that down in San Marcos. But yeah, Wes, 2-0.
Congratulations.
hey, it's good for the program because you're selling out these games.
I get it, man. And then it's hard
Yeah.
to schedule nowadays. You got to schedule 25 years in advance, and then nobody's even around anymore by the time it rolls around.
But
Let's
yeah,
let's
just
let's
real
look ahead
quick,
at week
2-0.
3.
Hey,
John, you talked
real
about
quick,
it.
2 and
Oh, go ahead.
real quick, 2-0. And then if you beat Texas State, you get 3-0. And then if you beat Texas Tech 4-0, look out. And then, hey, you could very well win 6 or 7 ball games because one, you're playing Kansas and Utah both at home.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget about that.
And Kansas was also humbled yesterday by Brett Bielema and the Illinois Fighting Illini. I don't know if you saw that, but they had a guy dressed up in the old school football helmet, like old school jerseys, and they were doing some halftime deal where he was sprinting against somebody. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But let's take a look ahead to week 3. Speaking of week 3, we will have Jeff Colhane as a special audio. It'll be patched into the normal Tigers Den podcast. So it's going to be an active week. So we're gonna have Jeff Colhane come on and talk Memphis, Florida State, which we're going to mention here in just a second. And then we're also going to have Al Bloodworth, member of the 1993 football team who was honored this past week, come on and also talk to us about Memphis Tigers. So that plus Johnny Boy over there will be back Wednesday, and we will get in there and record some more about Memphis Tigers. We're also going to talk about Memphis Tigers basketball. I don't even want to talk about it right now, but anyway. All right, so let's go ahead and look to week 3.
Can't wait, baby.
Hey man, look, don't make me put a letter out. All right,
that
so
was you. No,
no, I can't type that well. No, so let's go ahead and look ahead to week 3. And speaking of week 3, we will be on the Sun Belt call tomorrow talking to GJ Kinney about this exact game that John was just talking about. Big time matchup for Texas State. They got a big time win over UTSA. Man, yes, exactly. So Blake, let's start there. Okay, Arizona State now has to do the opposite of what Mississippi State had to do. They got to hop on a plane and fly across the world, or not say across the world, across the United States. And it's probably not going to be, I don't know, I had to check the weather. It's probably not going to be as hot in San Marcos, Texas, as it is right now in Tempe, Arizona.
Yeah. Yeah. It shouldn't be because there's that tropical storm coming through. So
this man's a meteorologist and he talks sports. I love it.
Yeah, I was gonna say just when beating Mississippi State, just as you go throughout the season, you want to gain confidence each week. So, the more confident a team is, the better chance they have at winning. So, I think now going back to Arizona State, they were picked 14th in preseason in their conference, 14th, 15th, something like that. So, I think they are going to surprise a few people. So I think they'll go down, get that win against Texas State, and then go on to Texas Tech the next week. But
they're going to be a fun team to keep up with too.
Yes,
John,
yes.
Let's go ahead and get into it, man. The Memphis Tigers 2-0, top 25. Memphis Tigers, by the way, are now 2-0. We're ranked. Memphis is ranked top 25. They are 25th in the coaches poll. Sorry, I'm trying to be unbiased until Wednesday night. And then so now they're making their first road trip down to Tallahassee, take on the Fighting Mike Norvells and the Florida State Seminoles, who are 0-2 and coming off a bye. John, a lot of Memphis fans are upset because they feel like this game now means nothing. But that's completely wrong. This game still holds so much weight for Memphis, especially when you look at the remaining schedule. Blake, you're itching to say something. Go ahead.
No, I'm going to sit back and listen to some Memphis talk. But at the end, I have a few questions for y'all too.
No problem. So John, let's go ahead and talk about it, man. We're going to have Jeff Colhane on Wednesday. Jeff does an amazing job. If you guys do not listen to Jeff, go Google. Yes, Google still works. Just go Google Jeff Colhane radio broadcast Florida State. I promise you will be impressed. But John, let's talk about Florida State, man. 0-2, DJ Uiagalelei. Yes, I nailed it again. I've memorized his last name. That's how. But DJU, in case you can't say it, John, he struggled. Obviously, Brock Glenn, literally, is the backup. Former Arlington High School star. No, I'm sorry. Dang it, where'd he go?
Lausanne.
That's right. My bad.
Sorry, Coach Castro the gang.
Yeah, my bad, Coach. Yeah, no, I was thinking of the other kid that went to Henderson State.
You're thinking about Kenneth Walker also. It's okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Kenny can. So let's talk about DJ Uiagalelei. He struggled. His accuracy has been almost non-existent, to be honest. And I don't mean that in a really negative way. I'm just being brutally honest about it. I also have said this. The play calling has been timid from Mike Norvell. I understand that Alex Atkins is the offensive coordinator on paper. That means nothing. He's a placeholder. Mike Norvell is calling the plays. Anyone wants to argue with
Mhm.
me on that? Please get in the comments. We can do that. I promise you. Mike Norvell is calling the plays. That is his. Yeah, go ahead, John. That is his offense. I promise you. But when you look at it, man, this offense is not clicking. They cannot. They're having problems running the ball, and then defensively, you can't stop the run, and that's a bad thing to have, especially when you started the season number 10 in the country and you were undefeated besides a 63-3 complete walloping by Georgia. Um, if Memphis becomes 0-3 and they go down there and beat Florida State, now John, you're going to be there too. I want to give you a little advice, and yes, it is live on there. Just go watch the game. Don't say anything to Florida State fans. Just be quiet. Um, just yes, leave
Yeah,
that to other bigger people to do, John. I'll just leave it at
sure.
that. But yeah, no, going to be a big time football game. Now that's going to be an environment. It's going to be a lot of fun. That stadium is massive, and that stadium gets loud. Doak Campbell is serious. The Tigers go down there and get a win, John. That changes everything from Memphis, but it puts Mike Norvell on the topic that we're going to talk about next, and that's the hot seat.
Yeah, I think you brought up the running game. Florida State's only averaging 59.5 rushing yards per game, and they are 196th in the country regarding that. And they're giving up 227 rushing yards for not so good in the nation on that. You're 230th in the country on rushing defense. You saw Demario Anderson run pretty well against Troy, and I think if you like everybody else has so far and get 4 or 5 yards of carry on first down, I think Memphis does have a good shot go by going down there and beating Florida State. But the real question is, how's me personally? I think the bye week does hurt Memphis in general regarding this game in general because Florida State has had a week and a half to prepare. But if anybody knows Mike Norvell pretty well, it's Ryan Silverfield, as you know. But me personally,
Yeah,
I think this.
heck
I
yeah.
think this. Yeah, I think this game is going to be a good test for both teams. To be honest with you, going forward for the rest of their schedule, because going forward, Florida State definitely still needs to win some games to win the ACC again, like the Clemson, the Miami, you name it. And then Memphis, on the other hand, if Memphis loses this game, they got another tough road test at Navy, and Navy's on a bye week too. And now on top of that,
Yeah.
it's an early kickoff for
This is
both
a
teams.
tough
So
stretch.
how's
Yeah,
the Memphis? First of
exactly.
all, I want to say how is
It's
Memphis? Yeah, with it being an early kickoff, how is Memphis going to come out in a true road environment like you brought up? Their first true road test at 12 o'clock Central Time, 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock Eastern Time, 11 o'clock Central Time, and also like Blake brought up, there is a tropical depression out there right now in the Gulf. So they are expecting some rain, 60% rain right now throughout the day in Tallahassee as well. But I
and
think,
see,
me personally,
I think
hang on
if
a
you're
second. I do
Memphis,
think
as long
also,
as you
hang on
can,
real quick. Sorry.
go ahead.
I was going to say also, if you see DJ struggle in that first quarter,
You're good.
it is time for Brock Glenn to come in that game. Because one thing, Brock Glenn can basically, you never know how he can do against his hometown team.
Yeah, and that's. I mean, that was kind of going to be one of my points here. Is
Yeah.
I don't know if there's NIL tied to things nowadays. There's so many factors, but there's a lot of something between Mike Norvell and DJ Uyunglele. Maybe it's let's try it one more time. Maybe let's try to get a win over Memphis, get over the hump, and maybe it'll boost our confidence. Whatever it is. But to your point, John, if he comes out, let's say he comes out and Jordan Hankins gets a couple of sacks on him, or they get a forced fumble, like we saw Elijah Herring had a coming out party yesterday. At perfect timing, by the way, Elijah. I'll talk about that Wednesday. This Memphis defense if they can get in there and make some plays and create some extra opportunities for Seth Hennigan, I'm going to talk about him in just a second. I think Memphis can win this football game because I don't know if Florida State. I don't feel confident. I mean, there's nothing about their running game that I've seen thus far that concerns me, and there's not a lot about their passing game. The wide receivers have drop-itis. It's the same offense we've seen from Mike Norvell since his time at Arizona State.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get a read right. You're going to get a read left. You're going to get a little tight end delay that's going to run right up the seam. You're going to get a screen right. You're going to get a screen left, and you're going to get a lot of motion and window dressing on the offensive side of things. But he's an effective play caller. Exactly. He's an effective play caller. I think he's one of the best play callers when he's not being timid, which I don't understand why he's doing that this year. DJ Uiagalelei has one of the strongest arms in the nation. Talk about strong arms. We're going to talk about Anthony Richardson has a strong arm. DJ has just a strong arm. And he's just dipping and dunking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Brady White didn't have that strong of an arm. Seth Hennigan has a much stronger arm than Brady White did. But then you flip over to the Memphis side, John, and you've got Seth Hennigan, who I've heard some people say he had a bad game yesterday. He just wasn't. He threw for 161 yards. He just didn't throw for 300 yards. Memphis ran for over 200 yards yesterday. If you can run for over 200 yards and pass for 160, create 3 extra turnovers or whatever it was that Memphis had yesterday, I don't care. You won, 38-10?
17, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that game was never in doubt. Ever. And I've gone back and watched it twice. That game was never in doubt yesterday. And if you're Memphis, you have to use that to your advantage when you go to Tallahassee because I promise you, to John's point, Mike Norvell is going to have – there is stuff posted everywhere right now in that locker room. Florida State understands the assignment, to use the new kids' terms that they like to say. He understands the assignment, I promise you. Now, John, hold on, man. I'm really curious what Blake's questions are. So go ahead, Blake.
Well, they're not tough questions. One, how far in advance was this game scheduled?
It
I
was
think
scheduled
right
3 years
after.
ago.
Yeah, right
Okay.
after he took that Florida State job, I think he contacted Tom Bowen, if I'm not mistaken, right, Wes, and said no.
Yeah, I mean, it was
Yeah.
officially announced, I believe, 3 years ago. It was announced the same time the Boise State series was announced.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if it was like 5-6 years ago, and it just so happened that Norvell, switched over.
Yeah, no. It was after the move.
Okay. And
But
what
can
would
I also add something
Yeah.
to that real quick?
Yeah.
I like Tom Bowen, but in order for your football program to be more successful, you do not sign that contract unless they give you at minimum a home and home series.
Yep.
It does nothing for Memphis just to go to Florida State.
You're right.
It's just like Missouri. Laird Veach
Yeah.
sold that game for $1 million to St. Louis, and guess where Laird Veach is now? He's at the University of Missouri.
Coincidence.
And he played
That's odd to
for
me,
that job
first
in St. Louis.
foremost. Very coincidental. Very coincidental. But, and I mean, same thing with Arkansas. Okay, I mean, while we're talking scheduling, if you're Memphis, you're about to be really pissed off because Arkansas is going to drop Memphis.
Yep.
Blake and I have already had this conversation a few times now. It's going to happen, and when it happens, I'm going to go back on that post that I made 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I'm going to share it again and remind y'all that I was right, and I don't mean that in a cocky way.
Yeah.
It's
Which
you have to.
Yeah.
You have to do what's best for your program, not just right now. But when you're scheduling in the future, you've got to look at it from both sides. It doesn't benefit a program just to go there and play there. Let them come here too. Let their you gotta do it that way. And that I mean that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's just like with Arkansas and Oklahoma State. They're only about 3 hours apart, but they haven't played since the '80s or '70s or whatever it was. And so
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just odd scheduling. But my second question would be, what would make Memphis fans happy on Saturday outside of a win? Like,
Hmm.
if y'all lose, if y'all just be completely
Go
shut
ahead.
down, not happy, or
Some fans will be.
No. Oh yeah. Some fans will
yeah,
cry. I'm not.
I'll
Is
be
it the biggest
like,
game on the schedule?
yeah.
Yes. Fans are gonna. Go ahead, John.
No, sorry, I had a pause. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I was just gonna say. I mean, if Memphis loses the game, fans are gonna say the season's over. It's ruined. We're not gonna be able to make the playoffs now. Oh my God, what's gonna our season? Silver fold. We'll start hearing silverfish again. We'll start hearing all this stupid crap that fans start spewing. I'm serious. It's gonna happen. Then it's gonna be Tim Cramsey sucks. Why is Seth Hennigan our quarterback? Oh my God, Jordan Hankins is nothing but a linebacker coach. It's gonna happen. I'm telling you. But if they win, Blake, it's flipped. It's the complete opposite.
hmm
Then it's oh my God, Mike Norvell who? And that's the other
yeah,
thing that I want to bring up. A lot of fans out there have a blind love for Mike Norvell, but now that he's 0-2, that blind love has changed. And now it's the grass isn't always greener, or how's Tallahassee, or throw the spear, Mike, or whatever. Well, that's funny because just 2 weeks ago, prior to them being 0-2, it was, oh, Norvell's my guy. Love you, coach. Can't wait to come down there and watch the Knowles and Tigers. Why? Why the change? I mean, Mike Norvell did great things at Memphis, yes. But Ryan Silverfield, I'll be honest with you, has done better things.
Yeah, just the way they competed in that Cotton Bowl as the interim coach. Like, you could see a lot of teams folding that game, and the Tigers didn't fold in that Cotton Bowl. But to make a good point regarding what Wes just said, if we lose this game, the Florida State, it's not the end of the world. Yeah, it'd be nice to win down there, but me personally, your other goals are to go to the AAC championship and win that conference and host that conference championship
Yep.
game because to me personally, this conference is still not getting enough attention down the road. Um, Heck, Army dominated the other day, against Florida Atlantic.
Yeah.
But we have better goals if we lose this game. Just take one game at a time, see what happens. And to be honest with you, to Wake West made a great point. Our Memphis fan base right now, in general, quit complaining about the attendance when there's other stuff going on at 11 a.m. kickoffs. Quit complaining about that crap because
There's only 30,000 seats in the freaking stadium,
there's
and
only
there's
32.
24,000 seats sold. Oh
Right.
my God, are we really that mad? Really?
Quit complaining about that crap, man, because
I mean, it's just
11
stupid,
a.m.
man.
kickoffs are just hard in general.
They find reasons to complain.
Yeah.
Yep.
hmm
All right, Blake, what's your last question,
yeah.
man? You got any more?
No, y'all pretty much covered it. I was just trying to, because I know, like back in the day when Houston Nutt resigned or fired, whatever you want to call it, when Arkansas went and played Ole Miss, it was a huge deal,
Mm-hmm.
to get back at our old coach. So
Yeah.
I kind of know how y'all are feeling this week. So
I mean,
Or
I'll put it
Brock
to you this way.
Dinstar.
I make no bones about how I feel. I make no bones about how I feel about Mike Norvell. I appreciate him for what he did while he was here. He took the program to heights that I hadn't seen at the time, ever. But I mean, you look at Ryan Silverfield, what he's done, continuing the success, but more importantly, what he's done in bowl games. Yes, Coach Norvell, those matter. And also what he's done in the recruiting trail and in the transfer portal. Ryan Silverfield's proven to me that he's a successful college football coach. All right, let's go ahead and jump over to the hot seat. Blake, I know you probably want to talk about this, but let's go ahead and
Yeah.
jump to the hot
Yeah.
seat. Blake, I'll start with you. Should Sam Pittman be on the hot seat? Per Fayetteville, Arkansas, the answer would say probably yeah.
Yeah. Which I mean, he stays on a hot seat. Let's just be honest. Like last year, this year, it's always been hot. You know, me and Dave Shoemate have talked about this. You know, we think this is Pittman's last year. You know, he can go 12-0. You know, he can't now, but he could have went 12-0, and this still would have been his last year. We just think this is, you know, his health and everything else. He's getting up there in age. He wants to, you know, he wants to enjoy retirement. So, but you know, I think, you know, it doesn't help losing at Oklahoma State in the fashion that you did. So the problem is, I hate these Arkansas fans who have this dreamland of Bobby Petrino being the interim head coach. I'm like, you do realize that if that happens, he probably won't be here next year. You know, it's just a 1-year rental. So I mean, yes, he was a great coach back in the early 2010s, you know, but you know, he doesn't want to do that. He just wants to call offensive plays.
That's it. That's it. All right, man. Hot seat, John. Let's go ahead and start with who do you think has the hottest seat in the nation right now?
Well, he just took the job, and I don't think he's on the hot seat because I really don't have one right now, to be honest with you. By looking into it a little bit more in depth, because it's not a good start for UTEP. Texas El Paso in the game, 0-2 to start out. And Scott Walton, the guy that came from Austin P, and you lose to a team yesterday in the window play. Was it South Utah or something like that, 27-24 in overtime? And you miss a 32-yard field goal to tie it to go to double overtime. But it's not a good start for UTEP and the Miners down in Texas El Paso. And I'm kind of shocked the way that Arizona kind of struggled yesterday against Northern Arizona as well. But nobody is on a hot seat yet, per se, for me. But it's not a good start for UTEP.
Yeah. I got one that's on a hot
Scott
seat.
Satterfield.
Yeah.
Yep, me too.
Yeah.
Scott Satterfield at Cincinnati. He's on the hot
No,
seat.
Oh.
Them folks are pissed off at Cincinnati. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. He's on the hot seat.
Yeah.
They're not happy with him. Go ahead, Blake.
Pitt. I'll say one is, you know, last year this coach was tied almost. He was pretty much named the A&M coach as Mark Stoops. I think that he's not starting off great this year against a bad South Carolina team this past Saturday. And he told the fans, you know, give more money to this program. Well, they did, and you see what's happening.
Yep. They're not a basketball school. I know that. Hey, that's not my words, folks. That's Mark Stoops.
Yeah.
All right, John. Let's go ahead and jump over to it, man. I'm kind of in go mode now. Sorry. Let's go ahead and do it. Upset alert, real quick. I'm going to put Arkansas on upset alert this week. I think Arkansas cannot come out flat against UAB. They cannot come out and overlook UAB. They cannot do it because UAB will come to the hill and beat them. John, what about you?
Let me go to week 3. Give me 1 second. Sorry.
I can go ahead and give you mine while you're looking it up.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's a ranked on ranked matchup, but it's still going to be an upset. That is Boston College in Missouri. Boston College looked really good against Florida State. So, and this is Missouri's first test of the season. So we'll see. I'm going to keep my eyes on that. It starts kickoff 11:45. So maybe one of them early games. But yeah, looking at Boston College beating Missouri.
You know what?
I like that. I like that.
I hate to say this, but I'll do Alabama.
Go ahead. Tell me why.
I'll do Alabama just because you get the game at Wisconsin, and the way that you came out flat against South Florida in the last 6 minutes of the ball game. You want to see, for one thing, how your body's going to be after that South Florida game, because the way that you came back in that game against South Florida. And then the one thing is the game's at Wisconsin. And then another thing we talked about numerous times throughout the last couple weeks: 11 a.m. kickoff in Wisconsin. So Alabama very well could be on the upset alert, and that's an early kickoff for them. But LSU might be on an upset alert too, because college game day is going there for one thing too, and the game is at 11 a.m. and it's in Columbia. So hey, LSU and Alabama are on upset alert this week. There we go.
Yeah. What a game to pick game day.
I don't understand why college game day is there either.
Yeah.
But yeah, it made no sense. All right, let's go ahead and get the NFL
people.
National Football. Go ahead.
They didn't want to see the Fox people in Wisconsin. That's all.
True.
Whatever. Yeah,
I get it.
All right, let's get the NFL Week 1, man. So I thought it was a pretty interesting week. Just looking at some scores, things of that nature. Tennessee Titans did not win against the Chicago Bears today. Let's go ahead and we'll start there. Real quick. So Titans are 0-1. I don't understand what I like Will Levis, and that's the problem. Is I do. I saw somebody compare Will Levis to Jake Locker today, and I about fell out laughing. Because I watched Jake Locker live and in person numerous games. John, give me your biggest disappointment besides the Tennessee Titans today in the NFL.
Mayonnaise boy with coffee. How dare you do that?
Yeah, exactly. I take the Titans away. Nobody can pick, can they?
No, I got one.
No, I'm just like, what are you thinking when you're about to get sacked? And I'm just gonna throw the ball up in the air and get
We're
picked.
moving on, John. What's the biggest? Look, is it Will Levis?
Hey,
is that your disappointment?
I'm pissed off as much as you are for one thing, because that second half,
you gotta tell me,
you could have used Pollard a little bit more in the slot and at running back. That's one of my disappointments. But the Falcons, man, what the heck are you? 18-10 to the Steelers.
Yeah.
And you signed Kirk Cousins in the offseason.
What a score!
Yeah.
And
no touchdown.
And no Russell Wilson, baby.
Yeah.
So how the heck do you only score 10
But he was in full pads.
Yeah.
Right. But hey,
dressing up.
Yeah, credit the Falcons, or not the Falcons, but the Steelers defense by holding the Falcons at 10 points. But Kirk Cousins, like, he was going there for Atlanta for a reason, to get the Falcons over the hump. But Falcons just didn't even show up at all today, except for the running back Robinson, who helped me out in fantasy this week. So I appreciate that. But Falcons are a big disappointment in my opinion.
He did it for you, John.
Steelers. Give me 16 points. That's all I
Go ahead,
know.
Blake.
Yeah, my disappointment would have to be my favorite team, is the Jaguars. You were up 17-7 at half at the Dolphins, and you end up losing 20-17. Travis Etienne was going in for a touchdown at the 1 yard line, got it punched out. So that was the turning point of the game. So it was a disappointment. But my biggest disappointment is the Cincinnati Bengals losing to the Patriots. I think, on paper, the Bengals are much better than the Patriots, but Bengals were outcoached today by a rookie head coach, Mayo. Speaking of Mayo. But
Shout out to Rod Mayo on his first win.
Yeah.
And
Harbaugh. And Harbaugh. Oh, yeah. And that fight. I don't know if y'all saw that fight that was happening between the Raiders and Chargers. That was it was intense. But it was. Yeah.
I wonder if
Punches
that'll be on
and
the all 22 film.
It should be. It was. Should have had a boxing announcer
If
doing
it hit,
it, but
that's going to be exciting.
Let's get ready to rumble.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
All right, man.
But,
So let's take a peek at week 2. I don't want to talk about the Titans anymore. Can we move on?
We are Titans, mighty.
I just don't get it, man. I can't
get over you, Wes. It's okay.
What are you doing? I do want to say this real quick. I feel bad for Jordan Love. I'm a big fan of
Mhm.
Jordan Love, man.
Mhm.
And what are the odds? The Titans trade Malik Willis to Green Bay for a rock, and now Malik Willis is starting quarterback. I mean, that's full
Which makes
circle
sense.
right there. I mean, dadgum. I mean, is that Malik Willis out there? Or is that Kurt Warner? I can't tell. What a story. Um,
Can I say
but
something too
Blake,
regarding week one?
give me a good. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, John.
Because I want to say something also because first of all, Dak Prescott, $230 million guaranteed. What is Jerry Jones thinking? Christian Johnson, I would love to hear from you
We're getting
regarding
there.
that.
See, you just got it. Just have patience.
But
We're
no,
getting
no, no. In all seriousness, Tyreek Hill getting arrested right before that ball game. We don't know the whole story, but
Yeah.
the way that he came out today after going through what Scotty Scheffler did, in other words, to do that 80-yard reception for the end zone, he just put his hand behind the back like he's getting arrested on the field as well. But I'm gonna give Tyreek Hill a little bit of credit as well for today, battling what he went through this morning, and also like he talked about the brotherly love, that the brotherhood that they have for the Dolphins by his teammates helping them out regarding the situation that happened earlier this morning as well. So those are my final 2 cents on week one.
Go ahead, Blake.
No, I was just saying when I saw Tyreek Hill get in handcuffs, I was getting very excited because my Jaguars were going against the Dolphins. I was like, oh heck yes, it's going to be a good. And then after that ETN fumble, the next play was an 80-yard touchdown pass to Hill, and I knew at that point it was over. But yeah, week one. I mean, it's a lot of. I mean, the Panthers. I don't know what y'all are doing. I don't know. It's terrible. You know, Bryce Young is not it. He's not him. So
But
yeah,
is it Bryce or is it a
I don't
lack
know.
of anything with talent around him or an
Well, my
offensive line
thing.
that can keep him up?
Well, going back to the Titans. You know, I mean, I know he's a rookie, but
Okay, go ahead.
Caleb Williams didn't have the greatest game, but the team around him,
Oh, true.
you know, with the special teams and the defense, helped them win that game. You know, so Panthers, they're just lost out there.
They should have kept
I
Matt
mean,
Corral
people are
when they had a
calling Caleb
chance.
Williams a bust. He's going to be the biggest bust ever.
Yeah.
Man, stop. Matt Corral. Sorry, I thought you said
For
Darnold. My bad. All right.
when Carolina had Matt Corral.
Yeah,
should've kept him.
yeah. I thought you
Yeah.
said Darnold. I was like, dear God, no, not Sam Darnold. Bro. Hush.
Hey, you look pretty
No,
good today.
but when you look
yeah.
at, I'm not a who?
Yeah, Sam Darnold balled out today. He balled out.
Well, a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then.
Oh.
Just saying, man. But no, man. The NFL season's here. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We'll keep you going all year long. On the sports buffet, on over under as well. Man, let's go ahead and jump over to closing. What would you say?
I got some over and under for you for week 2 if you want some right now.
Oh yeah. I'm
Okay. Give
Yeah,
me 2
I'm
over and
looking at
under games, and then we're going to closing thoughts.
All right, go ahead, Blake. You go first.
no, I was just noticing that for week 2, Cowboys are a 6.5 point favorite over the Saints. You know, so I guess Vegas doesn't put much into Saints win over the Panthers today. And then the Ravens
Wow, what the-
are a 8 point favorite over the Raiders for next week. So those are my 2 that I would watch for.
One of mine is good old Baker
All right, Johnny boy.
Mayfield. One of mine is Baker Mayfield, the way that he scored 4 touchdowns today, going to Detroit and playing Detroit on a short rest because they're playing right now as we speak. But Tampa Bay at Detroit, over and under right now is at 46.5. Detroit favored by 6.5. I think Tampa Bay can go in Detroit and win that game because the Baker has improved over the last year and a half at Tampa Bay. But I want to see how the Jets defense goes into Nashville on that short rest as well, because the Jets do play the 49ers tomorrow night.
Yeah, good point. Good point. All right, man. We're gonna jump over to closing thoughts real quick as we wrap it up. We went about 20 minutes longer than expected. Well, not really, because I
Yeah.
expected to go over. Um, but let's go ahead and do closing thoughts real quick, John. As we close this thing, out, do this coming up week in college football and NFL football, for that matter.
Yeah, I just want to say this. I just want everybody to stay healthy for one thing over the next couple of weeks, because you're going into your, like you said, non-conference schedule still, and you're going to be in the heat of your schedule going into the conference schedule a little bit down the road next 3 to 4 weeks as well. So I just want players to just stay healthy in general regarding that. And I also want to say, if anybody does need a ticket out there, use that 4-Star Sports Media promo code for anything over $50 or more. It'll save you off $20 off your first purchase on SeatGeek. So if anybody that needs tickets out there, SeatGeek is the way to go right now.
I'm just gonna start letting John do that promo every time he's on air. Every time John's on air, he gets to do the force. He gets to do the SeatGeek promo. He throws it out there, so shit,
Yeah.
just let him do it. All right, John, that's yours now. Whenever you're on air, sometime during the show, I need 2.
Hey, so this is presented by
You can do
SeatGeek, this
4,
show right now.
but it is exactly. But I mean, all we need is 2 per, read out per air. But anyway, Blake, what about you, man?
I'm just looking at this college football season. I think every team will have a loss at some point. There will not be an undefeated team at all. Like there's a lot of, like, this week was, you saw some upsets, and I think as we go throughout the year, you're going to start seeing more and more of those upsets. Teams sneaking up on teams they shouldn't beat. I just think, I'm trying to remember the year. It was the year Arkansas was in the top 20, 15, where like the number 1 team lost like 7 or 8 times. That was a pretty exciting year for college football. But I think it's going to end up being that once conference play starts. It's going to be that way.
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt, man. Sorry to cough in your ear too. But
No.
man, I agree, Blake. It's gonna be an exciting year, and you got my mind going on the no undefeated team, man. Now I'm gonna watch. Now I'm just gonna have to watch every year.
Yeah.
I posted a thing earlier on my Facebook page, personal Facebook page. That is, it says, "Love this post if your team is undefeated." They do that throughout the year, so I can just keep looking at that post, and hopefully I'll see a Memphis Tiger logo on it. But I mean, no offense, Arkansas, but your logo's off this thing now. But hey, you scored 7 against UAPB. It's all that matters, right? But when you look at closing thoughts, man, I think it's going to be another exciting season of, or it's just going to be another exciting week of college football. I mean, we saw Oregon almost drop that game. Oregon almost dropped the ball, and they did drop the ball. Yeah, they actually did drop the ball. But we saw that. We saw Arkansas wishing for a little help at kicker. You like that?
Yeah.
You like that, Blake? I threw that
Yeah,
straight up in the
a
game.
little, just a little
help,
a little,
like Cam Little.
little. Yeah.
Yeah, just a little is all you need.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we saw Notre Dame go down. We saw, I mean, fireworks everywhere, and then it's still going on in the NFL as well. And then just wait, folks, because college basketball is right around the corner. We got soccer going on. We got volleyball going on. College athletics are going on everywhere. And we at 4-Star Sports Media are going to keep you covered. We're also going to have Keller Sims on Tuesday to talk Arkansas hockey as they knocked off Division I Oklahoma over the weekend with the Queen. Get them brooms out, sweep the Sooners right off the porch, as they would say in Forrest Gump. But yeah, no, man, exciting time. I appreciate you guys jumping on. Also, we gotta give a shout out to the folks watching and listening, man. We appreciate everybody watching and listening. As always, If you do enjoy what you see, I know none of us are good looking, but if you enjoy what you hear, um, follow, subscribe, share, do it all. Click the notification button. Exactly, Blake. I have a face made for radio too. Click the notification button, and that way you know whenever we go live. We will be back on air, man, numerous more times this week. And also head over to 4star.live. Check out our website. It's a collaboration of all of our work. Like Blake over there on that side that does the Hogs Happy Hour. John down there in the bottom does Inside the Lines. Um, and we got Sports Buffet here as well as Tiger's Den, Over, Under, and more. We appreciate everybody watching and listening. We appreciate all of you tuning in. And once again, for Blake Hogue and Jonathan Sturbitt, I am Wes Pruitt. For all of us here at 4 Star Sports Media, we appreciate you guys and have a great evening.